assault from domestic violence happened to Black women,
Nowhere
making
in
it one
the
of the leading causes
corridors
of death for Black women ages 15 to 35. They are less
nowhere
likely to
in the
report or seek help
suburbs,
when
in the
victimized.
cold light of
Racism
day.
and sexism are the two
They're
biggest
in
obstacles
the
that Black
midst of
women in
it,
America
so
face,
alive
but because
and
they believe
alone.
racism is more
Words
important, they put that
support
first.
like
Black women
bone,
believe being loyal to their community
dreaming
and
of
race, so it renders
mercy
them silent
street.
when talking about sexism.
Where you're in
Domestic violence may refer to child abuse, sibling violence, intimate partner abuse, or even elder abuse. In 1980, Struss and some colleagues conducted a survey, which was the National Family Violence Survey. They reported that African American males had higher rates of overall and severe violence toward their wives than did white husbands. The rate of severe violence in African American families was 113 per 1,000, whereas in white families the rate was 30 per 1,000. African American women experience intimate partner violence at a rate 35% higher than that of white women and approximately 2 times than of women of other races, whereas among male victims of intimate partner violence, at a rate approximately 62% higher than white men and 2 times the rate of men of other races. One of their biggest impediments is their hesitation in trusting the police or the justice system. They say, as Black people, we don't always feel comfortable surrendering their own to the treatment of a racially biased police state, and as a woman, we don't always feel safe calling police officers who may harm us instead of helping us. And when we do speak out or seek help, we often experience backlash from members of our communities who believe we are airing out dirty laundry and making ourselves look bad in front of white people. In a society that measures manhood primarily by one's ability to provide, being denied access to the means to provide can cause the men to seek power through dominating women. Women feel trapped in bad relationships where financial need triumphs all. Black women's perceptions of what constitutes abuse have been influenced by their negotiation of spiritual and mental health beliefs. According to the National Violence Against Women Survey, African American women experience higher rates of intimate partner homicide when compared to their white counterparts. Statistics show that African American women typically comprise about 70% of Black congregations. Religious convictions and a fear of shame or rejection from the church may contribute to their remaining in an abusive relationship. Culturally and historically, African American women have been looked to as the protectors of their family and community. Some women may feel, because of their religious belief, they must impart forgiveness from their abuser's behavior and endure the abuse due to religious obligations under Christian doctrine. This form of religious maternalism or caretaking toward their spouse casts them their husband's protection and makes it more difficult for women to report their abuse or leave their abusers. Alcohol problems are more frequently related to intimate partner violence for African Americans than for whites. As with other abusive men, African American men who batter are higher in jealousy and the need for power and control in their relationship. Among African American women killed by their partner, almost half were killed while in the process of leaving the relationship, highlighting the need to take extra precautions at that time. Among African American women who killed their partner, almost 80% had a history of abuse. The impact of abuse. Women, Black women, who are battered have more physical ailments, mental health issues, are less likely to practice safe sex, and are more likely to abuse substances during pregnancy. Domestic violence reoccurs in a large sample of battered women in about half of the causes in which abuse happened. The violence did not happen again, however. Over one-third of women reporting abuse had at least one other incident of severe domestic violence in the same year, and 1 in 6 experienced another, less severe act of domestic violence. Women attempt to leave their abusive relationships. 70 to 80% left or attempted to leave their relationship. Women in abusive relationships need the support of friends and family. Black women who reported that they could rely on others for emotional and practical support were less likely to be re-abused, showed less psychological distress, and were less likely to attempt suicide. Teen dating violence. Black youth are overrepresented as victims of teen dating violence. In a 2003 national study of high school students, almost 14% of African American youth versus 7% of white youth reported that a boyfriend or girlfriend had hurt, slapped, or physically hurt them on purpose in the last year. Boys 13.7% and girls 14% were almost equally likely to report being a victim of dating violence. We believe that there is a lack of knowledge in the long-term consequences of domestic violence experience, the services, which is their location and cost, and the warning signs that violence is escalating. Cultural values and beliefs that inhibit disclosure. African American women are strong. African Americans are responsible for themselves and others around them. As African Americans, we take care of ourselves. They are ashamed if unable to control or endure the situation. African American women are responsible for keeping family together, avoid leaving. Have to consider effect of leaving on the children. How can you stop him from seeing his children? African Americans don't tell their business. They deny or avoid disclosure. Religious views. God will take care of it. Pray the Lord will change him. Community attitudes that inhibit disclosure and intervention. Definitions of abuse, pushing and shoving are not that serious. Distrust of institutions, concerns related to police response to African American women, legal system involvement and agency attitudes, loyalty issues, family pressure that inhibits self-disclosure and action. How can them, have him arrested? How can you leave him? I did nothing wrong. Why should I leave? Rely on family, friends, and church for resources and referrals. The financial concerns are how can I survive? How can they survive? The treatment needs community-based self-help support groups and networks, self-esteem building to assist in leaving, support and advocacy services to assist with issues after leaving, housing, job training, children's psychological needs, treatment designed specifically for African American men without stereotypes, cultural sensitivity, sense that advocates and shelter workers understand that violence is not more acceptable in the African American community. Advocates and shelter workers who are perceived as comfortable communicating with African American women in a respectful, non paternalistic manner. Diversity among advocates and shelter workers. Awareness of expectations, sometimes incongruent with safety and well-being based on community attitudes and values. Awareness that African American women respond to shelter rules within the context of a history of a controlling oppressive relationship and an oppressive society. There is no need for education on domestic violence. Issues related to definitions, warning signs, behavioral cycles, and resources are required. The media outlet and institutions prominent in the African American community must be targeted because African Americans rely on family, friends, and the church for information and referral. Outreach must be broad. Women will likely consult with one of these sources for support prior to action. Advocates must find a way to facilitate this social support system throughout a woman's effort to address her domestic violence experience. Diversity and sensitivity require ongoing awareness and action. Shelters must systematically examine staff composition and training. Advocates and shelter workers must be knowledgeable of cultural values, community attitudes, and social experiences that may affect reactions and responses to domestic violence. This knowledge should be differentiated from myths and stereotypes related from domestic violence in the African American community. Communication strategies that facilitate positive and supportive interactions between advocate workers and African American women who have experienced domestic violence should be included in training models. Shelter rules and policies should be examined to discern how they might impact diverse populations and how explanations or implements can be made more culturally sensitive. Participants were aware of the need for services that address domestic violence in the African American community. Despite this recognition, lack of knowledge, cultural issues, and community attitudes were noted to impede actions by abused women and support from friends and family. These barriers can and must be addressed. Women feel more obligated to fight back than to report abuse. They attempt to embody the strong black woman stereotype, and this has often done more harm than good. We cannot win this fight if we don't acknowledge any such fight to begin with. We have to push for stronger laws that punish criminal abusers, and we need to advocate for more treatment options for victims and abusers who seek help. We need to fund advocacy programs and supportive services for victims, and work on reducing the stigma attached to seeking help when one is in trouble. Most of all, we need to believe that Black girls and women are valuable, that they are important and worth putting themselves and other personal safeties first.
Let me talk to you. Where's your mom? What's going on?
They're having a fight because this is bingo forever and ever. They always have this because he has a cousin. He's always drinking beer and getting drunk. And Mom,
What's his name? What is his name? Your father's name?
he's my stepfather.
Okay, how old is he? What's going on? Lisa? Lisa? What's going on?
Hurry, Mom.
How's he hurting her?
He made his money.
Okay, don't cry. We're going to send the police.
Okay.
Okay, now where's your mother at right now?
He's in the room fighting with them. Okay, could you use them, please?
Yeah, they're on the way, but I'm going to keep you on the line until they get there, okay? Is your front door open?
Oh, no.
Okay, then go unlock it and come back to the phone so the officers can get in.
This way.
Okay, thanks.
He just knocked my sister out.
What sister that he knocked out?
My little sister.
Your
The
sister?
lawyer. Oh, my God.
What's the matter?
Nothing happened. Just wait for the police. Wait, I want to go see what happened, please.
Okay, the police are on the way, okay? Hello? Lisa? The police are on the way, okay?
Mama, the police are coming. My stepdaddy's got the